Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is about that time. Keep your hands up and keep your head on a swivel. The Haymakers and Submissions podcast is here. We woke up and chose violence today. Stick and stay for combat sports talk at its finest, coming your way now. Welcome, everybody, to the Haymakers and Submissions podcast. My name is Drew Dave Jasinski, and this is our year-end episode. We're going to talk about a little bit what we'd like to see in 2025. We're also going to talk about our Mount Rushmore of fighters individually, and it's not necessarily the four fighters we think are the best all time, but the four that perhaps influenced us more. Maybe we do think are the best, whatever. It's our own personal list. You may debate it, you may disagree with it, but you're talking about it, and that's the whole point. Also joining me today is Chops. Chops, how you doing?
Man, I'm good to be here, man. Been blessed to see another year. As we see 2024 go out, looking for 2025. Looking for a lot of big things to happen, man, in sports and life and business. I'm just looking forward to it, man. Been blessed for another year.
Awesome. Also, we got our special guest, Claudio Reilsono, joining us as well. Claudio, how you doing?
Good. I appreciate being on the show again with both of you. I enjoy it very much, and I'm honored to be on. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Again, we love having you, man. Love having you.
Thank you.
Definitely. Guys, let's jump into it. Let's start talking about 2025. What do we want to see coming up? I got a little montage of champions here, if you will. A lot of guys we've certainly talked about, and they've certainly done, in some cases, a lot of talking on social media, but not a lot of activity in the ring. And I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit, just kind of a precursor. I'm certainly going to talk about it, but let's start out first. And Chops, I'll lead with you. What's the biggest thing you want to see going into 2025? Is it a particular fight or a particular fighter? What are you looking for? Number one on your list.
I would like to see boxing build. I think they built some momentum. I think the way 2024 ended with some of the fights, I think was pretty good. And honestly, I do some great matchups, and I think they could build on that. Now, it's looking like it's not coming to fruition, but there was a lot of great fights. We talked about it before on the February 22nd card in Riyadh. It looks like it's not coming to fruition, a lot of it, but that's what I'm looking for, them to build on to build. And honestly, one of the fights I'd like to see, just because of the names, it's a big jump, and I don't think they'll get it in weight, would be Bud Crawford and Canelo. It's a difference in the weight, and I don't know how they'll get it working. They're up in age. I don't know how to work, but man, I would have loved to see that.
How about you, Claudio? What are you looking for? Number one on your list.
Chop said it. I'd like to see Canelo Crawford. I would also like to see, and I know this might be controversial to some, and I hope it isn't, I want to see Canelo challenged.
Yes.
I want to see Canelo challenged. Look, go to everybody through history, and there was that guy. When you think of Ali, who do you think of? Frazier.
Right.
You think of, again, the big four: Duran, Leonard, Hearns, Hagler. They fought. I want to see Canelo challenged. Crawford would be a challenge. I'd like to see him fight the winner of Benavidez and Morrell. Although Morrell, I personally think they're rushing him a hair. But those are the fights I like to see. Now, I'm going to throw you a couple curveballs. When I was growing up, Madison Square Garden, like I'm going to Canastota in June for Vinny Paz's Hall of Fame induction. And I was years ago, and I saw the ring from Madison Square Garden. Oh my God, that's the ring, from Madison Square Garden, right? Yeah. I'd like to see two venues make a big comeback in boxing. Madison Square Garden and Las Vegas. Because that's where the stars come out, and you pan over to the crowd. And that's just me. I know that's corny. And the other person there's rumor about him coming back, and I'd like to see him come back, and that's Vladimir Klitschko. He was dominant in his division, but I always thought he could do more. And maybe now, with a little bit of time passed, and maybe he feels he got that itch. Let me be a little more aggressive, and but that's my thing. I like to see Canelo challenged. I like to see him fight the winner of Benavidez Morel. I like to see a big fight, not at the Barclays or anything like that. I like to see Madison Square Garden and Las Vegas, the Caesars, right? The outdoor arena. That's what I'd like to see.
No, that's great. I mean, and even me from Detroit, Madison Square Garden still the mecca, right? That's the arena. That's and always will be. I agree with you on the Bud Canelo fight. I keep saying it's got to be once that 168 range is what it's going to have to be. The rumor is that Bud walks around at 165. Can he fight that way? I'm sure he can, but to take on Canelo Alvarez at his, quite frankly, the weight he's in, it's his comfort zone. I personally, if I'm Bud, I would try to push for that to come down to 160 again, but I highly doubt Canelo would want to go down to that weight anymore. I know it's only 8 pounds. That's a lot of weight in boxing, especially when you're in your 30s at this point.
Yeah.
Very much looking forward to that Benavidez Morel fight.
Was it bad that I said that though? Was it bad that I said that I'd like to, for you guys, that I'd like to see Canelo challenged?
No, it's. Go ahead, Chops.
No, not at all. I mean, not trying to be funny, but yes and no. And I say yes because, again, fellas, it's hard for me to remember. We're dinosaurs in this aspect because seriously, Claudio, because we all come from the mindset to be the best, you have to beat the best.
No.
Where these guys now are so worried about my zero. I don't want to keep that. I want to keep that O. So on the aspect you see him challenge, people are like, well, he's been challenged. He moved to it. No, dude, you can do more. So I say yes because now we have to watch what we say. You can't say the wrong thing in certain aspects. But I definitely want to see him challenge too. I'd love to see him fight someone, bigger, stronger, you move up, but someone who has a nice jab, someone who has a little bit of speed. Everybody is trying to stand in front of Canelo. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Why use an entire box? You have an entire boxing ring. Use it. You know what I mean? So no, I definitely want to see him challenge. That's why to me, Bud, it stinks because we're going to ask Bud to put on some weight and fight at a weight that will he be able to do everything he does at 147, 154? That's going to be, you know what I'm saying? Because just Bud, the way he rolls, the way he slips, Canelo's not. I don't know, man. Yes, I definitely want to see him challenge. I want to see him dig deep. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, and he's not going to take. I mean, let's face it. There's not going to be a Bivol rematch. I don't think it would be in his best interest. He doesn't want any part of Benavidez, and I understand why. David Benavidez with Canelo. I understand why he doesn't. I'm glad you brought that fight up, though, Claudio, because that Benavidez Morel fight is going to be going to be something. And I think, to piggyback on what you said, Chops, because we talked on our last episode for 24, and it was a pretty solid year, but it started slow. And I think 25 is at least lined up to start a little bit faster with Davis and Roach coming up, Benavidez and Morel coming up. When is the Bivol better BF rematch?
Is that March? I think it's in March. I believe it is.
Yeah, so it's the first quarter. So 2025 is going to come out of the gates strong. They have to the boxing community has to capitalize on that momentum and keep rolling through it. I want to ask you both. Let's talk about Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia. Will we see a rematch in 2025? Do you think, Claudio? I'll ask you first.
Ryan Garcia has a lot of physical ability. I saw an interview about a month ago with Isaiah Thomas, the legendary Isaiah Thomas. And he said he looked for players who were good from the neck up. Okay. You have it physically, or else you wouldn't be a big dog in the pros. Okay, got it. But he wants the people who are neck up. I've said about some football teams, they have the talent, but they're a little immature. They make unnecessary penalties. It just hurts the team. Ryan Garcia has ability. But I truly get disgusted when I hear. Well, it's one thing to promote a fight. That's one thing. I get it. But the lanes that he goes into,
Out of bounds.
Way out of bounds. So to be honest with you, on our boxing show, I don't like talking about the guy. Devin Haney, I think, is a very extremely mature young man mentally, has a ton of skills. I don't really care if there's a rematch because I really don't. And then the way he is with De La Hoya, 1 minute he's texting this, he goes in a press conference. He's just, I don't know. Maybe who am I to say who's good and bad? I'm not. For me, like there's some restaurants you may, Drew Chops. Some restaurants you may like, I might not like him. Doesn't mean I'm a bad guy. I just don't like him. He's not my cup of tea. Devin Haney, Shakur Stevens. There's just some guys. Tank. Wow. In the ring, fantastic. I'd like to see a little more personality, a little more color.
Yeah.
Not to go on a different side. I talked about Ricky Henderson, one of our last.
Oh man,
Was a shock to me. Yeah. But anyway, Devin Haney is tough, boy. I just think he is just, and I like his maturity. I like he'll go in your backyard and fight you. He'll fight you if you have all the judges from your country. That young man doesn't care. He's so skilled physically, and he has so much upstairs that if you're a true boxing fan, like I know you guys are, you really, really appreciate Devin Haney. Last thing, I apologize. Years ago, there was this guy who was going to Italy, and he told my dad he was going to go to Rome. And my dad said, "Oh man, Pat, you're going to love the architecture, the art, the statues, the fountains. You're going to be amazed, right?" The guy comes back and he told my dad, In other words, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Right? We appreciate Devin Haney, and I don't even think he scratched the surface.
He's a very talented fighter. Garcia may have a little too much quickness and to go with that pop because he's got pop. I mean, I agree with you totally, Claudio. I've always admired Garcia's abilities in the ring. I'm not a fan of him outside of the ring by any means. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure if we'll see that fight either. But I want to throw some names out there. We know Tank Davis is going to fight Lamont. Go ahead, Chops.
Hold on for a second, because I want to piggyback and I want to get Claudio's. Okay. Now, again, I agree with you on the way he goes. He's way out of bounds. Garcia, he's a head case. I don't even know what's going on with him, but I do like what he does in the ring. And because of that, if he could harness his mental, I don't want to say mental illness, if he could harness what's going on upstairs, I'd like to see him in the ring again, whatever have you. But he was, I hate to say an idiot, he was a loudmouth well before this last episode. He'd been doing these Twitter wars for a while. Why, I don't know, but he was. Okay, here's what I got a question, Claudio. And we have seen fighters fight guys that have failed drug tests. We have seen guys, even when your boy Tank, who you don't think is Tank as a head, like a neck above fighter, as you call it, whatever. I don't, you know what I mean? But again, I am the beholder. But that was really smart putting that hydration clause in, right? What against Garcia. So Garcia beats Haney, but he was PD's overweight the whole nine. But now Haney will not let this go, is in the lawsuit. We've seen other guys fail tests, but his opponent didn't file a lawsuit. Haney's not even talking about getting back into the ring. Before the Garcia fight, I would have believed everything you said because I liked the kid, and I still like him, but mentally I thought he was solid. We have seen fighters get knocked out, never be the same. We've seen fighters see their own blood and panic in a fight because they've never seen that. I need to see something from Haney, and it's not that he doesn't care who I am. I'm just a kid from Banneker, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But I don't know if mentally I don't want to say still there. I think he may be shook some mentally. And I only say that because he and his dad are arguing. Even though it was going to try to be outside the United States, Garcia, which maybe he even said it because he knew it couldn't happen, he was trying to sign an exhibition bout. He was trying to at least get back into the ring. Haney's not even doing that. They're just worrying about pushing this lawsuit. That bothers me. And like, this kid had so much, and it's not that he still doesn't, but just pushing this lawsuit and the way his dad is arguing on Twitter. If you'd asked me a year ago, that would have been well beneath the Haneys. I would have never expected that. Not me.
One thing that none of us, and I think we touched on it last time, none of us can, even experts will never be able really to figure out the human mind. There's different things you can point at this. Number one, you can say the old Marvin Hagler line. It's hard to go to bed in silk pajamas and wake up at 5 a.m. in February and go run.
Yes.
Okay. That's number one. Number two, when you have that reputation of who you are, like a Mike Tyson, and all of a sudden you get beat, okay, or you're getting hit often and lose, that
changes things.
Yeah, that aura, that, and that's part of Mike Tyson, that aura, right? Like when he fought McNeely, his eyes like a pendulum faced me, or when he did with Michael Spinks, he just intimidated. That's Mike Tyson, and we all thought it was going to happen again against Jake Paul. That's another story. So, yeah. I think somebody that I admire business-wise and professionally, and I always wear his clothes, Greg Norman, said that everything he does compartmentalize. So you have to focus on the task at hand. Haney should let everybody else worry about lawsuits and all that stuff. I'm worried about fighting, number one. And the other thing too is, you really hit it on the head. Maybe these guys sometimes you just lose that luster, Vinny Paz. Again, he never took a round off. And the more you hit Vinny, the more he wanted to come back. That's either in you or not in you. Okay. You either want that or you don't. It's very hard. Like people say, like for example, the Steelers. If the Steelers come out flat, they'll blame Tomlin. Well, I've been very honest about Tomlin when he did something right, when he did something wrong. But I don't see how it's the coach's fault.
Man,
it's good to motivate. I'm not saying it isn't. You have to motivate. I get it. But I'm pretty damn sure that if the Steelers are playing a team if they're 10-2 and they're playing a team that's 2-10, I'm pretty sure Mike Tomlin's still worried about it, where the players might say, whatever, so you have to either want it or you don't, is my whole point. And sometimes you just don't want it. And there'll be moments, there'll be periods. Right now, I got money, champion, man. I'm maybe take the foot off the pedal. And then there's some guys. Sugar Ray Leonard comes to mind. Marvin Hagler comes to mind. In the old days, again, Sugar Ray Robinson, all those guys. You want it, and that has to be from inside. A coach can bring more out of you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But like you said, some of these guys had it in them, and there are champs who get the big purse, and they've hit it big. They've had their belt. They've worn their belt for years or whatever and established themselves. Haney didn't do that on the aspect of we knew he was young, upcoming, and the sky was the limit. But now he loses. So, and I get a 2-part question for both you guys, and I'd like to hear from both of you. Now that he loses and has lost, I felt he could have taken a high road on this. He was PDs. We'll fight him again when he's clean, when he hydration clause, whatever have you. But continue to push the lawsuit. But here's forget about the second one. I just want to know this from both of you. Claudio, you said he can do what he needs to do in the ring, let everybody else worry about the lawsuit. Could he be not can he be, do you think he is, but do you think he could possibly I'm looking for another opponent. I want another opponent. The lawsuit stuff, I don't want to hear nothing about it until you tell me I need to be in the courtroom. And he could focus on another opponent. And part of that would be his father. So if that part of that focuses on an opponent would be his father, why are you still being in a Twitter war with Garcia? That, you know what I mean? So, and real quick, Claudio, you're a coach. So you have the inside track on a team. Haney and his people know they have the inside track. Do you think they're going with these shenanigans? And I'm calling shenanigans, antics, whatever you want to call it, continuing to argue with Garcia. Do you think they know mentally he's gone? And I hate to say gone because why, as a fighter, you never have excuses. You don't have excuses for a loss. We lost this, that. We can't blame the refs. We can't blame the judge. Put it behind us. We keep moving. That's not what they're doing. I love it. I mean, you've been in a fight game longer than we have. You look at it differently. help get us there? What do you?
Hit it right on the head. One time there was a great piece on NFL Films. Sam Weish with Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah,
They lost the game, and he was mic'd that game, and he said, I knew we weren't ready to play today. You just know. And as a coach, you're there now. What the hell are we going to do? But as a fight manager or promoter, you can sense when things aren't right. Maybe we just don't want to put him in against some guys after a loss. Sugar Ray Leonard, Duran. I want to fight him tomorrow.
yes,
Some need a break. Then they fight somebody who has, if they're a big punch, they fight somebody with a glass chin so they can build up that aura again. Again, it's a very delicate thing. But if a fighter isn't fighting, sometimes we blame the promotion, but maybe give the promotion credit for saying we don't want him to go in there and lose again. And one guy that is baffling to me is Keith Thurman. I think he's taking his nickname one time too strongly. He fights one time. Who knows? It isn't like baseball. Like Chops, you said a zillion times, you don't play boxing.
true.
You can go in there and get hurt, and then you don't want to go in there and take a punch and drop. You want to put something. So the mental thing is so important. Again, I've been with Vinny before a fight, and I'm talking about before he goes out into the ring, and he just turns it up into a frenzy. And I know me personally, as a coach, I don't sleep. The times that we won championships is the times that I got the most sick. I mean, sick.
Yeah,
I don't sleep. And I'm into it. And once you're on the field, you're okay. But and as a coach, you prepare them, you drill them, you send them out there. But all these scenarios come in your head. The mental thing is so crazy.
yeah,
And
man.
you have to like the players who make professional basketball, football, hockey, baseball. Yes, they're blessed physically, yes, but they also have the mentality. And also we got to remember, hey, I'm 60. I still screw up, right? These guys are 22, 23, 25, and maybe there's still some insecurity, immaturity, who knows? But it's hard to figure.
What do you got on Drew? What's your mindset on it? What do you think his team's thinking?
Yeah, and I agree with you, Claudio, and a lot of what you said there. When you're a young guy like that, you might not have the perspective of how your actions are being perceived, what your camp's telling you. Oh yeah, if we take this legal route, this is going to look good for us. And maybe it's the opinion of some. I don't think it worked. It backfired in this sense. It's making Devin Haney look really bad. I think, and we've talked about this before, Chops. They're in protection mode right now, and when you're doing that, you got to be really careful that it doesn't look like you're just trying to be an excuse making machine. If you have a legitimate issue, settle in the ring, like you said. Let's put a rehydration clause in. Let's make sure if you don't make weight, it's ball game. And by the way, you're going to owe us this much money. Stick to that. At the end of the day, Devin Haney had the choice to not take that fight, knowing to come in at the weigh-in 3.5 pounds over. Well, he's going to rehydrate another 10 more than likely. And that's exactly what happened. But regardless of the PEDs, they have that much of a weight advantage, knowingly going into that fight's a risk. I just think at the end of the day, I'd really like to see Devin Haney. Let's face it. I don't know his background in terms of how many times he fought in the amateurs, how many times he got beat. There's guys, and Claudio, I'm sure you've seen this in baseball. They've never faced adversity in their athletic careers because they've dominated at every level until they get to the show. And then all of a sudden, there's adversity. Chops, you mentioned it. Saw my own blood. First time you see your own blood. Yeah, that can damage someone mentally. Some people get ravenous. Some people do the 180 opposite. So it's that kind of adversity. Quite frankly, it goes into a society thing. I'm Gen X. we wanted to protect our kids from a lot of the shit that we went through as kids, right? Well, then you get the boy in the bubble. Okay, so now when they're 18, hey, I protected them their whole life. Well, now they're going to face the adversity that they should have faced at age 12, that they would have been able to handle as a kid. You could have worked with them through. Now they're adults. Now they're facing it. Athletes, same thing. Now you're a professional athlete, and you're facing adversity you should have been able to handle back in Little League, but you didn't
Drew,
have.
Great points. Forgive me for interrupting. Those are a zillion % right. And when you said that, I don't know if you can. I have pictures of Roberto Clemente all over my office here.
Good guy.
His last interview in October of 1972, his last Pittsburgh interview with a legendary Pittsburgh reporter, Sam Nover. Sam said, "Roberto, what do you want for your kids?" And I remember my parents understood it back then, but I was 7 and I didn't understand his line. I understand. He said, "I want my kids to suffer." I said, "What?" Because when you suffer, you live differently. You're basically, you become tougher. You know how to handle adversity. Now my daughter is 23, and from day one, I told her the hell that my dad went through, my mom went through, that I went through, whatever, and how we dealt with it. And unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with some things. Hopefully, not as extreme with my mom passing in my arms and things like that. But life is going to punch you, and it's how are you going to react? Are you going to collapse, or are you going to fight back? Drew, you make some. That was an excellent statement on your end. And again, the Clemente line, "I want my kids to suffer," and people kind of took that the wrong way. No, you build a tougher skin, and a lot of these fighters, and or teams for that matter, when things are going good, things are going smooth. Yeah, I'm the great. But I want to see how you are. Like they used to say about Marciano. I forgot the name of the writer. You'd know him as soon as I'd say it. I forgot. But anyway, he said, we wanted to see how Rocky was when he didn't have the ball in his hands. In other words, when things weren't going well. Well, obviously, the split cut from Ezra Charles, we see how he behaved. When he was fighting Walcott and he wasn't doing well, we see how he behaved. And that's what you want. That's when like even my teams, when we were down and we made a big comeback. Okay, yeah, we have something. And there's moments that when you have the right fighter that can really go all the way, not just be a belt holder, but I'm talking about a champion. And same with a team. When you have a team.
True. Okay, and again, it's been a minute since he fought against Haney. Okay. And he could have went. He talked about Catterall. His dad had talked about going to Catterall. And I think he wanted Catterall because he knew Catterall wasn't a big puncher. However, Haney had been in there with Linares. He had been in there with Cambosis. He had been in there with Lomachenko. So he didn't duck anybody. You know what I mean? He it seemed like before, okay, fellas, he's had to have sparred since. He's had to have been in his gym since he lost to Haney. There's nothing, Claudio, I respect you. Drew, I respect you. There's nothing either one of you guys can tell me right now that will make me believe otherwise than his camp sees him hitting the bag. They see him drilling mitts. They see him going through a workout. He didn't have it. There's something. There can't be, fellas. And I hate to say that because it's what could have been. At this point, you could have taken a glass jaw somebody else. I'm not even throwing a name out there. But you could have, or just fought a fighter who had a great skill set, but not a heavy puncher. Something to get you back on track. I just don't know it, And Claudio, what you had talked about, the what was it? Hard times create strong men, good times create good men, create good times create weak men, or something like that. You know what I mean? And that's basically what Roberto Clemente was saying. Right. And I just and you guys are so right about we don't know what his amateur background is, but I gotta believe this, Drew, when we talked about it in our other show before the end of 2024. I don't know how much adversity he had faced, and I say that because the way his father is coming to battle for him now. He is a grown man in a violent sport, and you're fighting on Twitter for your son. I just, so that to me tells me we want to put you in we put you in, with Linares, we put you in with Kimbos, we put you in with Lomachenko, who could have beat you, but we didn't really worry about you getting knocked out. But now that the unthinkable, because no guy goes in thinking they're going to get knocked out. Not only did you get knocked out, you were exposed that you don't have a good left hand. But to me, why didn't they build on the fact and continue to build him up? You got up. You went out on your shield. You fought a guy who was heavy. You fought a guy who was on PEDs. You fought a guy who looked like he could have broken your facial bone, your orbital bone. But you got up, Devin. You ended on your feet and pushed that in him to rise him up to where they're seeing him back in the ring. Again, he's the one who puts his life on the line. He's the one who has to do what he has to do. I get that. But man, I just think we as in boxing are getting cheated out of what Devin Haney could have been and what's going on. That's me.
True, but like I said, it's how you. I had a kid, wonderful kid, 6'4", great player. He kept missing signal after signal after signal. I get mad during the game. He looked at me like I broke his heart. Now I know I can't get on that kid.
Yeah.
Okay? I have to talk to him differently than other guys. I can get on all day. Deal, right? So you have to know. My team, matter of fact, I just received a Christmas card from this young man the other day. But we just won our second consecutive championship, and the third, on our way to the third, we had bunch of seniors. We got off to a bad start. I said, guys, we have to win 8 games in a row to make the playoffs. 8 games in a row. And they looked at me, and one of them said, how do we do that? I said, the young boy asked the old man, how you achieve success in life. The old man said, by eating an elephant. The young boy said, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. I told the team we got to win game 1, game 2, game 3. And you know what they did when they broke the huddle? Instead of saying win or hits or whatever the hell teams say, they said elephants. Right there. I already knew I had a special team, but I really knew I had a special team there, right? It's you can motivate, you could get the Lombardi. If the players don't want to listen, okay, I had good math teachers in high school and college. I didn't pay attention. So, outside of adding and times tables, that's it. So don't blame them. You blame me. The Haney, the father and the coroner and everybody else, if they're disinterested or maybe they lack confidence because of what happened, or maybe, you psych yourself up so much. And when you get hit, you say, damn, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Maybe it's just all broke. You can't lie to yourself.
No, you can't. Can't lie to man in the mirror.
Right. But you can say, okay, I'm sorry, last line. When Sylvester Stallone tried like hell to get this Rocky, whoever this was, going, he finally got it done, right? So the day of the first taping, I believe it was February in Philadelphia, freezing outside. He's in a trailer. So they knock on his door and they said, Sylvester, are you ready? And he said to himself, no, but Rocky is, right? And I've done that because I still look at myself, I don't know, I'm still that little kid from Swickley, Pennsylvania, right? But then forget about me. Last, I apologize. When John Bon Jovi and Billy Joel, they both said the exact same thing. When they peek through the curtains and they see all these fans there screaming, and both of them said, Billy Joel said, I'm just Billy Joel from Brooklyn. And John Bon Jovi said, I'm just John Bon Jovi from New Jersey. But then as soon as that camera comes on, they got to be John Bon Jovi. You see what I'm saying? So I know some fighters that out of the ring, very nice, calm. Donnie Lalonde's calm, very smart, astute businessman, good man. Goes in the ring, he's got a right hand that can knock a building down, But then you turn it off and you get outside. But it's so much mental. It is so much a mentality. And I think that's what he needs to work on more than anything.
Yeah, definitely.
Great points. All right, guys, let's shift it over to our Mount Rushmore boxing. So, again, this is our personal Mount Rushmore. Could be the 4 best that we've ever seen. Could be the 4 best we feel historically. Could just be the 4 folks that influenced us. Anywhere in between, there are no true rules in this one. So, Chops, this was your call. This was your idea. So, I'm going to throw it to you first if I can get my production activities here right. We got
appreciate it. Now again, how you take it is how you take it.
Yeah.
I took it as the 4 fighters that no matter what was going on, you wanted to watch. That just there. It's hard for you to even say something bad about them. That was just who you like, whatever have you. Okay. For me, I'll talk about the 4. Then you guys can go in your 4. Then we can elaborate from there, whatever, because I don't want to monopolize the time. Okay. Mine again. James Toney. I love James Toney because James Toney could fight almost like in a phone booth. And the way to me, Tony was never sculpted. He was never built like, whatever, but he could sit there, wear you down, stay with his game plan. I just love it. And also me always being a bigger guy, I never wanted to move. So just sitting there doing it like that. I love Tony. Second, with his speed and the way he moved and some of the movements he had, because they were non-traditional, I loved Roy Jones. I loved Roy Jones Jr. So when I watched Roy Jones beat my guy Tony, that was hard for me to watch. That really was hard for me to watch. And one, of course, was Tyson, just the viciousness that he brought with it, And the other one was Sugar Ray Leonard. And the reason being is Sugar Ray was articulate, well-spoken, looked like a pretty boy outside the ring. He didn't come across as a dumb fighter. You know what I mean? He didn't, and he was articulate, and I love that. And honestly, the Sugar Ray and Donnie Lalonde fight made a big impact on me, because that's where I realized you can look and be a gentleman and wear a suit and present yourself one way here. But as soon as you step inside that cage at ring, as soon as it's time to battle, worry about what's in front of you. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted with the golden locks of Donnie Lalonde that he was a cakewalk. Don't get it twisted because Sugar Ray was well-spoken that he couldn't, you know what I'm saying? So that is why those are those guys, and that's why those are my 4.
That's a hell of a list there. It's definitely,
and that's why, you know what I mean? I could get another one and go deeper, but it was those 4. It was those 4 why.
No, I hear you, man. That's a great list. Claudio, who do you got?
Okay, I'm going to. You said kind of. I forgot what you said, but kind of we're going to do our own thing here. So
yeah.
All right, I'm going to do 2 of them. One of them, I've been very blessed to become friends with a few of them. So I got to mention the guys who've meant the most to me, and like you said, had impact. Obviously, Vinny Paz. Love Vinny. Never took a round off, but personally, he means everything to me. I've been very fortunate to become friends with Ray Boom Boom Mancini. No, I don't just know Italian guys. But Donnie Lalonde, who is just a wonderful person as well, and Jerry Cooney, who is somebody who people should look up to, not just what he did in the ring, but out of the ring, and the type of person he is. There's a few others, but I'll use those 4. Paulie Malignaggi is another one who's done well outside of the ring. He owns a few businesses, does well on the mic, stuff like that. Okay. Now, as far as the fighters are concerned, Sugar Ray Leonard was the best finisher I ever saw. Showman. Everything. The 2 perfect. I say he was the perfect fighter. And Muhammad was Muhammad. He's in a different zone. But Sugar Ray Leonard was unbelievable, and a lot of what Chop said. Mm. The other one for me, I grew up hearing nothing but Rocky Marciano. That's all I ever heard was Rocky Marciano. And so I've read about Rocky and studied him, watched all kind of fights, and not just in the ring, but his out of the ring thing, which with his demeanor out of the ring and his mentality and his fear for failing also translated to him being the type of fighter he was. And I also think he was a little underrated. I think that, the stereotype of he just went in there, took 30 punches to take 1 wasn't really true. He was harder to hit than people gave credit for. And the 2 fights which he got, the Walcott one, he got hit pretty good. And the Charles fight where he got split. Other than that, he really didn't take the beating that they made it sound like. So Sugar Ray Marciano, I grew up hearing about Graziano, but the other one that really had a ton of impact on me because of his story with his mother and the heart. And I'm not just talking about heart, tough, but the sensitive man he is. And I won't bore you with a personal story, but somebody who just gets me emotional is James Buster Douglas. And I'm going to tell you something else too. And again, I'm going to preface it by saying you're going to think I'm crazy or whatever. Yes, Sugar Ray was, to me, the perfect fighter. But that night, now people say, oh, he lucked out against Tyson. No, if he'd have hit Tyson with one shot, okay, he was lucky. I don't know if I've ever seen, and I know you guys aren't going to agree with me. Nobody's going to agree with me. Luther and Jim, when I say this on the show, don't agree with me. I don't know if I've ever seen a more perfect fighter physically than James Buster Douglas. Unbelievable. Larry Holmes had a great jab, obviously. Buster Douglas had a hell of a jab with some pop. He had an accurate right hand, great feet, very athletic, very fluid. Okay. Just unbelievable talent. But again, silk pajamas, whatever. I can't say one negative thing about that man because I just think the world of it, and he's done well out of the ring too. But physically, boy, oh boy, I don't know if I ever seen somebody with the total package. Now, and finally, I think that's four, but George Foreman, the second George Foreman. Okay. I just, I enjoyed watching him, loved watching him. Again, he had impact. So those people, not just, my friends that I was friends with, yes, they had impact on me, loved watching them. But those other people, they had impact on me in other ways and just unbelievable fighters, but they were also good people. And that's my Mount Rushmore. But well, you talk about Roy Jones Jr. and the gifts he had. And just, I like the guys who, they'll move left and you think they're supposed to throw a right, but they'll throw a left.
Man.
Just, like what was the word you said? Uncanny, whatever. Just unbelievable. Now, not the greatest chin, but that's okay. Unbelievable speed.
Yeah.
He was hard to fight because he was awkward in a sense that you didn't know where he was going. And another guy who I enjoyed watching, forgive me, Prince Asim Hamed.
Oh yeah.
Great to watch.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciated those guys, and Oscar. Oh boy, but again, Vinny, Boom Boom, Cooney, Don Lalonde on the other side, Marciano, Graziano, Leonard, Buster Douglas. Guys, just
and you know Ray Boom Boom Mancini.
Yes.
Okay, do me a favor next time you talk to him. He was on years and years ago. He was on an MMA show with Errol Herwani. However, being honest with you, Boom Boom may be the only guy to be able to answer this question. What's the difference and who would he see fighting? Because you see MMA guys going into boxing, but you don't see boxers going to an MMA ring. A lot of people don't know this, which of course you do. He is a highly trained jiu-jitsu Ray Boom Boom, right? So he's been top level on both. You know what I mean? And how does he see it? How does he see if you had the baddest man heavyweight, John Jones, get into a fight with Usyk or heavy? You know what I mean? I'd like to hear him break it down. Someone who's been and seen it both at a high level. You know what I mean? So I'd love to ask him that if you could.
I will. And finally, one thing about Mancini, I tell this to him almost every time. I've been to several business meetings with Ray. I don't know. There's a few people to come to mind that I've been. One played for Pitt basketball years ago. His name is Pat Cavanaugh. He owns a company called Ready. It's a nutrition company. Another guy, Jeff Lipton, very intelligent guy. But Ray has been, when he goes to a meeting, I've never seen anyone as prepared as him. And they ask him questions and he's banging them out. And then the other guy, Donnie Lalonde, I've been in some meetings with him, and Donnie, his acumen forced me to improve my business acumen. And just two very intelligent people. And then again, Cooney, there's a nice article about him on Boxing Scene about how he kept his money and how to tell other fighters, hey, here's what I did. I live a nice life, but he hasn't fought since January of 95 against Foreman. He does Sirius XM radio, makes some appearances. He's good. So those guys are models of
how
what
it can be done. Yeah.
But it's really people should be. And I know I've tried to follow that model as well.
Okay. All right, Drew, what do you got?
All right. So start off the hop, for me personally, the most influential boxer and arguably the greatest ever. If you asked him, he would tell you it was Muhammad Ali. He was the greatest, and he's in the conversation for greatest fighter of all time. But it's hard to argue who was the most influential socially, and just the guy to basically put his own career on the line, is his legacy on the line because of his convictions. Whether anyone agreed with them or not didn't matter. He was willing to stand on that, and he lost everything for 3 years pretty much, and in the prime of his career. I admire that greatly. And then he came back and obviously built on his legacy through the 70s, which was amazing to me. So he's number one on my list. But perhaps in my mind, I only saw him fight against Larry Holmes. That was the only time I ever saw him fight. So I didn't see the prime Ali. But Sugar Ray Robinson would be the other, with number two. I mean, this is a guy that would fight, and I know we've talked about Robinson before, with Claudio even, where he's fighting 8 days before a rematch with LaMotta to like a tune-up. I mean, Sugar Ray Robinson was amazing. And yeah, I love that I know he's a New York guy, but he's from Detroit, so he's still a hometown guy. So we got that going. But he grew up in New York, so we'll give you that. But number three, though, a guy that's born and raised here, Detroit. Well, not really born. He's born in Alabama, but he lived in Detroit for the most part. Tommy Hearns, one of the four kings. He and Emmanuel Stewart built Kronk Gym. Tommy Hearns put it on the map, and it's there to stay. Tommy Hearns is one of my favorites, still is. And Tommy Hearns lost fights, right? Marvin Hagler, that's one of the greatest fights it is the greatest fight I've ever seen. And he lost that fight. Rockman got him. He lost the first fight to Leonard. The second one I still have a problem with. I didn't like that draw. It was a great fight. It's not like it wasn't close, but he put Leonard down twice. But anyways, I love the picks of Leonard by you guys too, because he's one of the four kings. But the fourth guy I liked, who got me personally back into boxing in the early 2000s, was Arturo Gatti. No matter what, Thunder Gotti was going to bring it. That guy was so exciting to watch. Most of the time he's going to get his hand raised too, but I mean, no question you were going to get a war from Arturo Gatti. Loved watching him. So those are my four guys.
I got you. Okay. I got you. Okay. Now, when the guys you had named, like Buster, trying to think, Vinny Paz, Ray Boom, had you had the great fondness for them before you got to know them? And once you got to know them, that enhanced? Or once you got to know them as men, Claudio, that enhanced what they did and what you respected in the boxing ring?
Great question. Because of, I'm in the sporting world, obviously. There's a lot of phenomenal athletes and a lot of people that I've looked up to, again, because I'm in the sporting world. But for me, you could be an unbelievable baseball player, boxer, whoever. It was the type of person you are. Okay. Now, Clemente obviously was one of the greatest players of all time, but it was the type of person he was that I would say, you know what, Chops? Yeah, Clemente was great, and I'd leave it at that. But it was the person. Vinny, I admired his heart and going after it, and never giving up. And then once I got to be friends with him, his support of my career, I can go on and on and on about that, about him and his support of my career, how much it meant to me. So, and Ray, yes, you appreciate, I was very close with my dad. I was attracted to Ray because he wanted to win the title for his dad. Buster Douglas. I knew who Buster was, but his mom passed a little bit after my mom did. And when he said he wanted to win the title for his mom, that's my guy, right? And so that's a great question. So I knew about these people with the exception of Buster. Well, no, I take it back. I knew that day that he fought Tyson about his mother. But for me, it's the person, and I'm into stories. Okay. I don't mean this in a bad way by no means. Steve Young was a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah.
But I don't know of a story about him. So I mean, yeah, good for him. But he's not somebody who's had impact on me. I don't know if that's a great example or not.
No, I got you.
Makes sense.
Or if I'm answering your question. But yes, first, you see who these guys are. They have a certain flair or whatever. Sugar Ray Leonard. I really admire his business acumen. Okay. I've listened to a lot of his speeches. I mentioned Greg Norman. Yes, for years he was #1 golfer in the world. But his book changed my life in the business sense. Okay, and I read that book probably 2 to 3 times a year. And George Foreman, another one. So I admire the athlete. Then I dig a little bit more into it, what kind of person he is. Oh, okay. You're kind of attracted to people that you're similar to, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, to become friends with them, and first and foremost, they're good people. They're good people.
Okay, real quick, we did this on our end of our 2024 show, so I wanted to ask you if you can real quick. We finished with, for 2024, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What was good for you in 2024 in boxing? What was bad for you in 2024 in boxing? What did you just think was ugly? And I don't even say for you. What did you see as good in boxing? What did you see as bad in boxing? What did you just see as ugly in boxing in 2024?
Me, as Clemente used to say all the time, for me, I am going to say on my end, I just disappointed in Garcia. Just disappointed.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can turn it around for his sake. The good, I'm glad that Usyk and Fury fought again. The bad, and again, not picking on him, but I guess I am. I just want to see if you're as great as people say you are, if you're as great as you say you are, then fight the right people, for the lack of a better term, and that's Canelo. It was like when I think of 1987, Hagler Leonard, bang, right off the bat. What was? I'll put it to you this way. I'll put it this way, because you said quickly, and unfortunately I never do anything quickly. In scouting, we were taught, Drew and Chops, what can you hang your hat on a player? When I say Reggie Jackson, what do you think of? Power. Thinking Ricky Henderson, even though he was a 5-tool player. Speed. When you think of Nolan Ryan, what do you think of? Power. Is speed. Power. Right. When you think of the whole 2024 year, what can you hang your hat on? What was the one fight or the couple fights or event, that you can hang your hat on? I don't know if I can actually hang my hat on one fight.
No.
It was certainly a solid second half of the year. But yeah, you're right. I don't think there's a signature fight like, oh yeah, I'll never forget that one. There were very good fights, don't get me wrong, but no signature.
Yeah, and the thing is, and I hate to say this, but you can get two guys that were, 15-0, and they fought each other. It was a hell of a fight, but nobody knew who they were.
Yeah.
Like what's the old thing? If the tree falls in the forest, no one hears. I'll throw you guys another curveball. I forgot what year it was. One of the most entertaining fights I've ever seen, and I get laughed at about it, was David Haye against Tony Bellew, the first one. I mean, unbelievable fight, but it didn't get any attention here, for whatever reason. But again, this year, to answer your question, what stands out? What is that signature fight, or a couple signature fights? Solid. Solid.
Yeah. And like you said, that one fight nobody's heard about. Mine was Wardley and Clark. Wardley and Clark won. Nobody watched it. Nobody knew of them. They were heavyweights. And it was a barn burner. It was a great fight. Now, of course, second one ended in a TKO second round. But the first one, Wardley and Clark, it was a great fight. So I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, you got to watch those in a lot of the undercard, right? I mean, that's why I'm really excited to see some, with what they're trying to do in Riyadh with getting the bigger undercards, the Queensbury match room 5 versus 5. That was pretty cool. I think we see more of that. That would be really good. I just think there just was a lot of good, but not anything great per se. Although the Fury Usyk fights were very good, very good. And anytime you have an undisputed championship for a heavyweight title up for grabs, it's a big deal. It
was. Now let me ask you this, guys, real quick. When we're talking about some of the better fights we saw, and then a lot of them were in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, or even some in England, Catterall, with Taylor, whatever. Do you foresee Riyadh, Saudi Arabia? Do you see these, Dubai? Do you see these areas coming up and starting to get more bigger fights? Because it was always Vegas. You had to throw in Manila and you had some outside, but it was always Vegas was where the big fights were.
Or New
Now
York.
The Sheik and a lot of these cats, New York. But now the Sheik, these cats, they're throwing their money. Do you think 2025 and beyond we can start seeing a lot more fights overseas, or do you think Vegas will hold strong? We're Vegas. We got this.
Go ahead, Claudio.
Okay, I think so. I tell you why. Because the promoters, they've hit the Saudi Arabia scene. They've put a ton of money into it. They've provided great cards, no doubt. But at the end of the day, I think they want to conquer another area. It's just like a fighter. You're the middleweight champ. Okay, great. You're now the super middle. Now I want to conquer the heavyweight. I'm trying to say. So they're good over there. Now the money is going to pass no matter what. Yeah. Those things are going to pass no matter what. So let's go to Vegas and dominate there. Let's go to New York and dominate there. So yes, I think, and it's the American eyes. Smoking Jim says the world's bigger than just the United States, and I get that. But you have marquee, Vegas, New York, Vegas, New York. Let's go dominate that. And I think that's going to happen. I think they're going to have some big fights. But I would say something else, too. For us, we appreciate the fighters, no doubt, and the intricacies of fighter, the minutia of the fighter. Okay, fine. But I don't know if there's any crossover fights, meaning are there any crossover fighters, meaning Tyson was crossover, Sugar Ray was crossover, Tyson was crossover, Foreman was crossover. Oscar was crossover. Meaning, are they going to attract other people than us?
Yeah.
Okay. When I went, I told you guys last time we were on together. When I just walked in to that establishment in Chicago, Tyson and Paul. Tyson is electric. To this day, he's 58 years old. Okay. If George Foreman decides he's coming back tomorrow, he's going to be. Now, Klitschko will not, have that crossover effect. But I don't know if there's any crossover. Was Mayweather? Probably. He was more in the lines of an Evel Knievel. People wanted to see him make it. People wanted to see him not make it. People wanted to see Mayweather win. Some people wanted to see him get the hell knocked out of him. But I think to have an crossover event, you have to have a crossover personality.
I got you.
Well, fellas, we're going to wrap this one up. It's been a great year in 2024. Appreciate your time, Claudio. You got anything going you want to talk about before we wrap up here?
Too long. I apologize. I enjoy talking to you guys.
We love it.
Yeah. But yeah, everything's good. Like I said, getting ready to start our baseball season soon. Looking to get our boxing authorities back in action, doing a bunch of different shows. But you can go on my website, ClaudioReilsono.com, listen to some interviews. And but everything's good. I'm grateful for everything, and grateful for you guys as well. And I wish everybody a great holiday season and a special 2025.
Appreciate that. So for Claudio and Chops, I'm Drew. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Check us out on the ESEN network every Friday nights at 10 p.m. on Roku. Check out our Twitter page and our Facebook page. Thank you again. Have a blessed New Year. Have a blessed Christmas holiday season. Talk to you in 2025. Take care, everybody. Thank you for watching the Haymakers and Submissions podcast. You can find us on the ESEN network on the Roku app every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time beginning on October 4th, 2024. Check us out on Twitter X. Our handle is @HaySubPod, capital H, capital S, capital P. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single episode. Just go to your web browser and type in www.youtube.com/@Haymakers and Submissions podcast, as we will drop content weekly. Whether it's boxing, MMA, or wrestling that gets you fired up, you'll get all you need right here at the Haymakers and Submissions podcast.